respond.
Let's start with the last question first. Yes, indeed, and my sincere apologies. We are able to tell you exactly where it is. The ballot box that we are trying to track is in Ward 14 in Umhlatuzi in KwaZulu-Natal. We are obviously all on our own initiative, also trying to trace this. But let me just assure you, and I thought that when I addressed this, that I would have eased your concerns. It is inexcusable. Material lying around, immaterial of whether it means anything. So if it's even an IEC booklet or an empty ballot box or even a chair, and I've seen some of these things on social media, we find a piece of furniture, it's IEC branded, and then we seem to associate that with the election being compromised. I did emphasize that on this matter, the results, those votes in the ballot box, it was counted. It was recorded on the result slip. So the value is the result slip at the end of the day. However, for sake of completeness, it is important for us that we get that back and place it into storage. As far as negligence is concerned, we do not believe that is the case, but if indeed so, then obviously we would need to investigate further on this matter. How do we explain the decline? I am not aware, if it was mentioned, that we are looking at record turnout. In fact, 66 would not be the record turnout for a national provincial election. It would probably be more closer to 80%, as we had experienced in 1994 and 1999. So I don't think that we would have been under that misconception to make a statement that we would be receiving a record turnout. But how do we explain? I think I also gave an explanation in the figures to say that the 55%, and we need to think about this very carefully. The 55% is not 55% of the overall result. We don't know what the result is going to be until all the figures are captured. The 55%, or in this case, as you see on the board, 34.49, constitutes a percentage of voting districts. And the voting districts that are in are the ones that are smaller, that are closer, probably more rural. I think earlier when we showed you maps, we probably colored in the whole of the Karoo, we colored in the whole of the Northern Cape, except for the Uppington, Kimbling areas, because it's sparsely populated places and it's small numbers, which means counting goes faster, and it also means that capturing would be first in the queue. So it's still early days. That figure could still, depending on what the turnout in the bigger VDs, and more specifically in the metros, as I mentioned, constitutes about 50% of our voter population. Errors, and I think this one also related to the ballot box. Yes. The allegation that, you know, and I don't want to keep on saying this, we don't plan for losing a single ballot box. We don't plan for a single ballot or a ballot book to be lost. But look at it in the context. We have just under 23,000 voting districts. And in this election, we would have probably had 3 or more ballot boxes. So it's more than 100,000 ballot boxes. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm talking here about a single ballot box. And I don't think that under the circumstances that we regard that as an error, given the fact that elections are never perfect, but we plan and we strive towards that. The provincial percentages, we can surely make that available. at the cross, someone can assist you, and we can provide you the voter turnout as well as the capture percentage for each and every province. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Grenville. We're in the numbers game. I'm just going to take the last set of questions before we go back counting. There's a hand this side, and then I'll go to the last block. Yes. We'll come back to you. Stacey?
Thank you. It's Natasha Perry here again from SABC News. Mr. Abrahams, do you get a general sense that there's or is there great appreciation of how enormous the task of preparing for elections is? I mean, this time around, you guys printed 90 million ballots. You've had 3 ballots at the voting stations, more voter education. Yeah, so do you get that sense from the public and political parties? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Ngosikona Malingamisi from Power FM. I just wanted to know, are you presently still dealing with any disputes where the process is concerned at some voting stations and also the results? Ngosikakul.
Thank you.
Aviram Dila from ENCA. Mine is just about the people that turned away. Of course, some of them stayed in the queues up until the early hours of the morning. Are you not worried about those that couldn't stay in the queues and turned and went home and then didn't practice their democratic right to vote?
Can I take the last question from here? Thank you. Oh, okay. Granville, I'm going to take, I think I'm covered. We'll get your question. I've noted it. Yeah. Okay. Why this mic, Mara, you control? All right, all right. I've got one question from this side. I've got 2 last questions from this side. Then we'll be covered. Okay.
Thank you, Kate. I'm sorry, I got the mic before you
handed
it over to me. My name is Sam Kokeli. Could I please ask from the IC if there is anything in this election that has gone wrong in how the IC sees it? And if there is any area of managing this election where something has gone wrong, where the IC takes responsibility? Let me put then one thing to you for right of reply, please, with regards to budgeting. The National Treasury has released a statement. It states that it's not true that the IEC's budgets were cut in context of this election. In fact, the IEC got money, 250 million rands, where its budget cuts were reversed at the beginning of the year. It also got to keep a whole lot of money, 1.5 billion rands, and furthermore, 350 million rands was made available to the IEC. In conversation, it was put to the IEC, if the question was asked if the IEC needed money for this election, and the IEC did not make any specific requests for further funding for this election. Could the IEC deal with that, please?
Okay. I've got 2 hands from this side, and then we're done. Yeah.
Salino Makwidi here from Salam Media. My question also touches a bit on funding. On the ground, did you feel the impact of the budget cuts that the IEC has had to endure in this year's election?
Pizzo Malamane, Kaya News. In ensuring that there's no anxiety, are we in the position as the IEC to give assurance to South Africans when are we going to end or stop counting? When is counting coming to complete? Thank you.
Okay. I'm taking the last round and then I'll be closing. Thank you.
Isak du Plessis, the spot in connection with the question earlier asked regarding people that had to turn around from the voting stations, people that were registered and had the confirmation that they were registered, coming at the voting station, nothing is there. Everybody tells them they can't help them up to senior level. Can you please react to that?
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you very much, Grenville.
In no specific order, the issue of, with all due respect, a lot of these questions have been answered, but I will do it again. Perhaps those who have asked the questions weren't here. The issue of disputes and on the results and that, the Commission is responsible for dealing with objections. And the Commission will deal with these objections before the results are announced. And I think, to quote the Chairperson Muhepia, if you're basically asking us when are you going to deliver the judgment, all I can say it is will be before we will announce the results. They apply their minds. The Commission is constituted of 5 commissioners, and one of them has to be a judge. On your right-hand side, we have the department that deals with all of those objections, our legal advisors. And they have been extremely busy. They're out of sight. It looks as if they're doing nothing, but you'll see them compiling piles and piles of files and walking over to the Commission. So that is happening in the background, and it will be dealt with, and it will be responded to. I also want to deal once again and say to you that we have dealt with this question probably about 3 or 4 times, and I can assure you that if voters were turned away, just being registered does not entitle you to go to any voting station. The legislation has been amended, and it is now in line with municipal elections, and you can only vote where you are registered. Did we turn people away? Sure, in terms of the legislation, because if I was registered, or I am registered in Johannesburg, and I want to vote in Centurion, you are not going to be allowed to, because you need to go to Johannesburg. The one exception would have been the Section 24A. And the Section 24A requires you to notify the Chief Electoral Officer that you would be voting elsewhere, and you had to indicate where. So just by virtue of Section 24A also did not mean that you could go and vote anywhere. Now, we are not as harsh as turning people away. We are equipped to redirect you, to tell you where it is that you should go and vote. Now, the reason why the stipulation is register, or at least vote where you are registered, is so that we can plan for each and every voter. If we have voters that arrive unannounced, then we're not going to have enough people, we're not going to have enough ballot papers, etc. So it's a logistical arrangement. I am yet to find a situation, or if I have been provided with proof or an ID number, and that the person was at a specific voting station where he's registered and he has been turned away. Does the IEC take responsibility for everything or anything that has gone wrong? Yes, of course. We do not shy away from responsibility. And after this election, we will, as we normally do, we will go and debrief, we will reflect, we will also go with political parties and all stakeholders, and we will improve where required. The issue of budget, suffice to say that as all other state-funded institutions, we work within the MTF, and we have to work with what we are given. With the budget that we have received, we were able to have for this election 2 registration weekends, as we always do. We were able to have the activities around election day, special votes, and 2 days for special votes, and voting day, voting abroad, as well as our voter education program, and seeing to it that each and every voting station is equipped with the materials, and of course also the staffing. We were also able to introduce, because of the fact that we want accuracy in counting, as we've mentioned, 3 additional staff members per voting station. When is counting coming to an end? I think that, without going into the details, we are required to announce the result within 7 days. And whether or not counting is done, there is no time frame for when counting should be done. We will finish counting if it's not done when we finish. But the one thing that we will be held accountable to is that we need to announce the results within 7 days of the election. And when we count in the presence of party agents. Just lastly, the question that Natasha asked, the task, yes indeed. What we need to understand is, other than when a country is at war, an election is the single largest deployment of resources. We are not at war, and elections in this country will forever remain the single largest deployment and logistical task. Do we feel that we are appreciated for this task? We feel that this is our responsibility to the nation, and we don't do it to receive appreciation and acknowledgement for what we do. What we do want at the end of the day is to see that our work is reflected in a peaceful transition from one regime or parliament to the next, and that it also unites us as a country. Successfully in past elections, and we hope it does the same, that there's an initial boost once we have a free and fair election, irrespective of who the winners or losers are, whether it's economic, whether it's in other ways, whether we get more focus from the rest of the world. And that, I think, for us, the fact that we can assist this country, that we are all a part of, that in itself is enough appreciation for this organization. I thank you. Can I engage with you on the bilateral? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I bring this press briefing to an end. I'll allow Grenville to take to do a bilateral with the gentleman. Any other information are available on our platforms. You can send WhatsApp, you can send emails, we're available to the nation. We've got social media platforms as well that are available to South Africans, and we have been responding accordingly. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's watch the screen. That's where the results are coming. Thank you very much and good night.
And that concludes the briefing there by the IEC, giving us a sense of where things stand. About 55% of the results captured in their system. It's important to say this, the results captured in their system there so far in some of the districts that are in, and they do talk about the fact that there was, of course, that incident where they lost one ballot box, but those particular votes were already counted and a results slip was already being produced, so they are looking to then get that ballot box back, because they do need to store it for up to 6 months, and it is in Umhlatuze. And the IEC also reiterating that it's still early days when it comes to the counting. There's about under 23,000 voting districts and more than 100,000 ballot boxes, ballot papers there as well. And also at the same time, they talk about the fact that they continued counting, of course, well into the night in some parts, and some smaller municipalities have packed up when it comes to counting as well. So it does look like for them, they are pushing ahead and saying that there's only 8 metros. Those metros account for about 55%, and that is where the lag then does happen. So they will then be continuing to bring us updates. But that's it, of course, for the night. So we will bring you updates. But speaking about updates as well, Mfundo is standing by. And Mfundo, of course, you know, you think about the fact that one of the most important conversations that takes place right now is how are we looking so far in some of the provinces and
It is important to look at just those figures now and give you a national picture as well as provincial. But what has become the common phrase is that one of its early days. We've heard it from the political parties themselves, and it is early because it is just 34.49% of the votes completed that have been counted. But just to give you that national picture, if we look at the top three nationally, we look at the ANC. The ANC is currently standing on 42%. If you look at the Democratic Alliance, they're currently on 25%. And then if we look at the MK party, the new political kid on the block, they're standing at 9%. And then I want to take you to the party profiles, just for us to get a better sense and even have data from the previous years. We look at the party profile. If we look at the ANC, we start with the African National Congress. If you just look, it is indeed 42.3% to be exact. And then we go to 2019. They were standing at 57.5% on closing, so they closed off at 57%. And then in 2014, they closed at 62.1%. And then if we look at the Democratic Alliance, they are currently on 24.6%, and then they closed off in 2019, for context, at 20.8%. Right now, they're also stating that all they want to see is growth, and having spoken the likes of Helen Zille, they've stated that they were no under any illusion that they'd possibly get a 50%. And they're actually of the view that at this point in South Africa, there will be no political party that would get above 50%. It's all about coalitions now, so most of them will have to work together nevertheless. In 2020, or rather in 2014, they were at 22.2%. If we look at the MK, of course, we wouldn't have data beyond 2024. They're a very new party, 4 months old, as we heard from the spokesperson there, Mr. Ndlela. They are at 9.4% currently, 2024, and we stated that we are at roughly 34% insofar as the votes counted that have been concluded. We look at the economic freedom fighters. They're currently at 9.1%. In 2019, they finished off at 10.8%. In 2014, they were at 6.4%. Now, when we look at the economic freedom fighters and what's happening even with them MK right now nationally, it seems the MK party, for the better part, has been hot on their heels, but we're seeing now bit of a change where the MK party in the national picture so far, they seem to be slightly above the economic freedom fighters, but it's still early days, the most common phrase that we all keep hearing. If we look at the Patriotic Alliance, particularly in the Western Cape, quite surprising, this political party, they've made some good inroads, but if we look at the national picture, they're currently on 3.5%, 2024, and of course 2019 0.0, 2014 0.1%. And then we'll end it off with the IFP, at least just give you a picture of just 5 of the political parties. They're currently on 2.4%, that's their national picture. In 2019, 3.4% nationally and 2.4% in 2014. And having just spoken with Mkhuleko Hlengwa, he's saying for them, again, the goal is just to increase their support. And he's firmly of the view that indeed their support will increase, but raise concerns around the IEC's pace at counting these votes, saying that it's leading to a lot of anxiety for many people. We're now hearing many theorize of who will be the coalition partners. So he's hoping that they'll pick up the pace and we start to see more of those results. But Bongiwe, at least for now, we can give you just the picture of those 5. All right, more news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us.
Within 15 minutes, I was covered. It was very easy. It was fast as well. I
people have been killed in an ambush in Muden in KwaZulu-Natal.
Police say that 6 people were traveling in a vehicle early on Thursday morning in the Eslabeni area when unknown suspects opened fire.
Now, 3 men between the ages of 22 and 25 were declared dead at the scene, while 1 woman was injured.
The other 2 women escaped injury.
At the same time, a 40-year-old man has been shot dead in his vehicle at Wartburg, northeast of Pietermaritzburg.
KwaZulu-Natal police say the shooting happened at a SOAI high school.
And the deceased was in his vehicle with another man when another vehicle pulled up ahead of them and the occupants opened fire.
The other man in the vehicle escaped unharmed.
Police are investigating.
To the story now, the rand lost over 1% in morning trade amid a stronger US dollar and local market jitters prompted by the likelihood of a coalition government.
Now, the weakness in the local currency has also been attributed to a sell-off on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
And most JSE stocks are trading in red, with most indices down over 2% in early trade, as projections show the governing ANC is set to lose its majority.
Now, bank stocks posted the biggest losses.
At the moment, with the uncertainty that we don't know where things will end up, it's still early days, and we see that reaction. And it doesn't necessarily, as I said, support any particular views around who is going to come out ahead of this race, etc. We've also seen some, if you look at the rand, some strange movements over the last couple of weeks, some significant rand strength. And obviously, if one looks at the reduction in load shedding, in fact, we haven't seen load shedding for a while. A lot of people think that that could be a positive factor that contributed to the relative strength of the rand. Whilst that is true, one must keep in mind that so much of what is happening on our local markets over the longer, short term, I want to say medium term almost, is driven by what's happening globally. So some short-term uncertainty, a bit of up and down on the back of some local news is to be expected. But in the long run, we're still very much driven by what is happening in the markets, by what is happening globally.
The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has left interest rates unchanged.
The repo rate remains at 8.25%, while prime stays at 11.25%.
Governor Lesotho Kganyago says the bank now sees inflation stabilizing at 4.5% by the second quarter of next year, an improved outlook on its March forecast.
Now, he added that achieving the bank's inflation objective is not yet done.
As expected by market observers, the Reserve Bank kept its rates unchanged. This means that businesses and households will continue to have to shoulder 14-year high interest rates.
We saw that across the MPC, it was a unanimous decision to keep interest rates steady. I think some of the interesting components that came out of the MPC meeting today is that they do see a more balanced sort of view on the risks to the inflation outlook and a more balanced approach on the growth outlook as well. And I think this is really in line with what we're seeing globally, that we are inching towards that time when central banks are going to start considering interest rate cuts.
The bank noted that economic growth in the first quarter of this year was likely to come under pressure, but that the second quarter would likely compensate with higher growth, indicating that its forecast of 1.2% economic growth for 2024 remained. The governor also cautiously welcomed the recent steady supply of power, the lack of which has adversely impacted on growth.
The recent improvements in the power supply, with no load shedding since 26th March, is a welcome development. We have revised our load shedding assumption down, but additional revisions may be required if this performance is sustained.
While the governor seemed to suggest that the beginning of interest rate cuts looked more likely next year, economists say the SARB's quarterly projection model still suggests that rates could be cut by as much as 65 basis points this year. Pakrisami says Momentum Investments is still holding out for 2 rate cuts before the year ends. Nampumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, motorists can look forward to some relief next month, with fuel prices expected to drop.
Now, preliminary data from the Central Energy Fund shows the petrol price could go down by as much as R1.04 a litre, while diesel prices may drop by between 90 cents and R1 a litre.
The drop in fuel prices is as a result of a stronger rand and lower global oil prices in May.
Now, the Mineral Resources and Energy Department is expected to announce the June fuel price adjustments that will kick in on Wednesday.
Now, in a surprise, pardon me. I've always thought that
it is a surprise.
This is now officially my welcome to a full view.
There we go.
Well, in a surprising turn of events, the economic freedom fighters got an unexpected vote in Orania, Northern Cape, much to the amusement of many South Africans.
Now, 65% of the residents in the whites-only enclave voted for the Freedom Plan Plus, while the DA attracted around 22%. And of course, that's our lot for the evening.
It is our lot for the evening. What a busy evening.
And it's basically setting the pace for the coming days. Because remember, as they say, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Indeed, it is a marathon at 34.4% of the votes now completed and counted. But honestly, it will be a very long night tonight.
Definitely, and we'll continue then to bring you rolling coverage as the SABC of all the developments. So do stay with us as we will be taking you through this very important milestone in our democracy.
Indeed. Good night.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to the weather desk. We are expecting clear weather conditions over the eastern parts of South Africa today, but there is a very large cold front over the western interior, resulting in very stormy weather conditions over the western interior of the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. We are also expecting very strong and damaging waves over the central parts of the country for tonight. The cold front will also result in heavy rainfall over Cape Town and surrounding areas for tonight, with an 80% probability scattered over the adjacent interior, and only isolated rainfall can be expected over the west coast of the Eastern Cape, and clear weather conditions will persist overnight in the northeastern provinces of the country. And for tomorrow, expecting the cold front to reach the Eastern Cape, bringing cold and rain weather conditions throughout the coastal areas of this province, with an 80% over Gqeberha, and scattered rainfall is expected to reach East London later on in the afternoon. And further into the interior, only a few chances of rainfall can be expected in the Northern Cape and the northern interior of the Eastern Cape. There is a warning though of runaway fires over Kuruman in the Northern Cape. Clear weather conditions will persist over the northeastern provinces of South Africa. Temperatures are very cold as well overnight in Johannesburg, dropping to a minimum of 6. Similar conditions are expected as well over Bronkhorstspruit, dropping to a minimum of 3 degrees overnight, rising to a high of 22 for Johannesburg and 23 over Carltonville for tomorrow afternoon. In Limpopo, mild conditions as well for Polokwane, 6 degrees in the morning and rising to a pleasant 25 in the afternoon, and no weather conditions can be expected in the Lowveld region of Limpopo, especially over Palabura in the east, peaking at a high of 31 degrees. And clear weather conditions throughout Mpumalanga, cold weather though in the morning for Secunda at a minimum of 4. Similar conditions for Emelo. Temperatures will peak at 28 in Bombela and 32 degrees over Skukuza in the far eastern parts of Mpumalanga. Warm weather conditions throughout KwaZulu-Natal, even though it is partly cloudy as a result of an approaching cold front. There is also a slight chance of rainfall later on in the evening in the south coast of this province. And in the Eastern Cape, we're expecting 80% probability of rainfall over the south coast of this province, scattered though in the east, and towards further into the interior, only expecting a high of 16 degrees over Koman. And cold weather conditions are also expected in Willomo as a result of the cold front. We're only expecting a high of 11 degrees. Cold weather conditions throughout the Western Cape, with rain weather conditions still expected as well along the south coast, only isolated in most areas, but scattered rainfall can be expected between Mosel Bay and over George in the south coast of the Western Cape, and freezing conditions for Sutherland at a minimum of -5 and only rising to 10 degrees in the afternoon, a high of 18 for Carnarvon and 14 degrees over Springbok. And freezing conditions are also expected throughout the Central Free State, a minimum of 0 for Bethlehem and Vicksburg. Temperatures are pleasant though in the afternoon in Bloemfontein, reaching a maximum of 24 degrees. Sunny skies throughout the northwest, with temperatures peaking at 24 in Mahikeng and a temperature of 26 degrees over Vryburg for tomorrow afternoon. And that That is all from the weather desk.
In this industry, definitely time is money. I've seen what's